Good morning and welcome to Telling Our Story Kentucky. I'm Amy Razor, the Executive Director at Northern Kentucky Cooperative for Educational Services. And I'm also the President at Kentucky Association of Education Cooperatives. And I would just like to take a few minutes to talk about the creation of Telling Our Story Kentucky. At our annual retreat in the fall, with all the cooperative directors, the Kentucky K group leaders, and the superintendent representatives, we spent time in conversation discussing the critical role that public education plays in our community, which became the foundation for this campaign. As we all have been on this pandemic journey, while we may be tired, there is still so much to celebrate. The purpose of this campaign is just that, to celebrate and lift up the positive moments. In Built to Last by Jim Collins, he quotes Edward Odell, "History is the study of surprises. We are definitely living history, surprise after surprise." This captures the world in which we are living right now. Uncertainty is chronic, instability is permanent, and disruption is common. This is why our collective human capacity is a critical tool on this journey, to show that we do daily open our public school doors to all kids. On behalf of KEEC, we are pleased to unveil the Telling Our Story Kentucky campaign. With these resources, our districts will be empowered to highlight local stories on a monthly basis. The goal will be for each district to share one story a month. While that might not sound like a lot, if you think about it, it would be 171 stories a month statewide, or to say it another way, it would be approximately 2,021 stories for this year. Together, we can shine a brighter light on the innovative opportunities occurring daily for our kids in the classrooms across our state. I'm pleased to introduce you to a few of the colleagues who I've collaborated with to develop this program. They are passionate about public education and student success for all kids. They have dedicated their time and talents to create this campaign, and they will be sharing information with you today. Mr. David Young, the Executive Director of CKEC. Thank you, David. Dr. Rob Smith, Superintendent of Bellevue Independent. Mr. Josh Schulte, Director of Communications for KSBA. And Ms. Gretchen Wetzel, Executive Director of WKEC. And then we also have directors, I think, that are online with us today who were part of the collaboration and will be hosting calls later this week. Dr. Leon Munihan, Ms. Nancy Hutchinson, Dr. Jerry Green, Dr. David Johnson, and Mr. Bart Fleener. It's our hope that by uniting in this effort together statewide, that we can make the positive so loud that the negative becomes almost impossible to hear. We will begin today with David Young sharing the why behind the campaign.
All right. Thank you very much, Amy. And I want to also welcome everyone. Again, I'm David Young. I'm the Executive Director at the Central Kentucky Educational Cooperative. And I think I want to start by just, and I'll reiterate a little bit of what Amy said, but I want to start by just bragging on us a little bit. We've been under such stress that we haven't probably taken enough time to pat ourselves on the back in public education. We should really be proud of how we've responded during the pandemic. We have been innovative, we've been flexible, we have worked longer hours than ever before under more stress than ever before. And, I guess most importantly, we have had a laser focus on kids, their academic needs and their needs outside education, outside their academics. The needs of their families and the needs of our communities. And so I think for that, we should take a moment and just recognize that we have performed at a really high level in the most difficult time any of us have ever experienced. And it's good that we've responded that way because, if you've noticed, the spotlight and the spotlight on education is brighter than it's probably ever been before. And we're also under the microscope more than we've ever been before. And if you don't believe that, watch the governor's press conference each day and wait until the Q&A at the end and notice what percentage of the questions are about education. And, it's something that touches such a large percentage of all of our entire population's lives. And so it is a hot button topic for sure. Over this pandemic, people have spent time thinking about public education more deeply and with different perspectives than they ever have before. And so as we move forward over the next few months, and then hopefully we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to get back to some sort of new normal. But as that happens, as we go through the next few months, and then hopefully we transition into that new normal, the thoughts and perspectives that people have had on public education during the pandemic, and then experiences that they even had before that, are going to shape the future of where we go, and how we're perceived, and the type of job that we can continue to do in our communities. So that kind of brings us to where we are today. We're proposing today that in a coordinated way, we tell powerful, specific, impactful stories about the things that are happening in our schools, and the things that have happened over the years in our schools, and how they have impacted students that have gone on to be successful in their lives. So as we talk about telling our story, as we start to kind of build that foundation, there are two things that I think we believe are true, that are universal truths. The first one is, we believe that people identify deeply with where they went to school. You'll notice if two people meet each other for the first time and they learn that they're from the same state or the same general geographic region, one of the first things they ask each other is, where did you go to high school? And so there's something intrinsically rooted in us about where we grew up, where we went to elementary school, middle school, high school. There's something that sticks with us there that we identify with really for the rest of our lives. And so that's a positive thing for us in public education. The second thing that we believe that's a universal truth is that in communities, for the most part, people have a positive, feeling or a positive perspective on their local school system. They know students who go there, maybe their own children go there, maybe they went there. They know people who work in the school system. They go to church with those folks. They see them at the grocery store, and when they're just out in the community, and they're friends with those people. And so most people in a community, in your community, feel good about your school system and about the job that you're doing. And so that's another positive thing for us as we think about telling our story. Now, one thing that we do, and I know I'm talking in this meeting, I'm talking to a lot of folks who either wear a public relations hat full-time or part-time. We have superintendents that are in this meeting who also think about public relations. And one thing that I think that we are susceptible to in school districts is we have wonderful things happening, and we're living and breathing those wonderful things every day, to the point that we think everybody knows about those things. We think that everybody in the community knows, that we put in a robotics lab, and now we have 60 kids who are participating in robotics and are going into that field and are being successful in their lives. That's such a big story to us in our bubble that we think everybody in the community knows that story. And a lot of times they don't, or not as big a percentage of them know that story as we think. And so we have those stories happening. We have stories about individual students who are succeeding or who are overcoming great obstacles. We have stories of students who have graduated, who go on to great things. And if you talk to them, they credit what happened in their elementary school or middle school or high school, or maybe sometimes with one or two teachers. They credit those folks with that success. And people in our communities don't realize that. And so if we go back to the fact that communities largely feel good about their school system and people identify with where they went to school, those positive feelings, if we can put stories out at the community, at the local level, then we're giving those folks who already feel good about your school district, we're giving them stories to tell. So we're telling them stories, but we're also giving them stories that they can tell to others to help promote the value of what's happening in that local public school. And then at the regional and state level, we can share those stories so that over time we can flood the market with the positive things that are happening in public education that we all know are happening in your school districts all the time. For the handful of folks that are out there who maybe don't have as positive a view of public education or of your local school system, when we tell these stories and they're specific and detailed and impactful, we can potentially change their perspective. We can give them new things to think about that are different than the negative experience that they might have had or the negative experience that they may have heard that someone else had. And so we can sort of combat that negative feeling by giving them authentic, positive stories that they can kind of root their feelings in moving forward. So with that, I'll give it back to Amy.
All right, thank you, David. We appreciate that. We're going to move to the next slide. And at our retreat, we had superintendent representatives as part of that this year. And Dr. Smith actually shared part of the why from a superintendent's perspective of the importance of more than PR, but the telling the story. And I'll let him take it from here and share that perspective.
Thank you. And thank you for including me in this presentation today. It's almost a dubious distinction to be highlighted here. But so as I speak, I want each of you to think about your individual districts and the challenges that you face. And the reason I say it's a dubious distinction, I think you're going to see from the Bellevue perspective why telling our story is so important. The first piece for us is financial concerns for a small district. We are 600 students, K through 12. Every dollar counts, just like in every other district in the state of Kentucky. We're in a unique situation where we are 75% to 80% free and reduced at any given year, yet we fund locally 70% of our school district. And the reason for that is because of gentrification of the urban core. 10 years ago, we were funding about a third of our school. And now that has totally flipped, and we are funding 70 to 75% of our school district. And so that puts a real squeeze on your district. As families, as gentrification does, families end up leaving your district in droves for a variety of reasons, whether they can't afford the housing, they can't afford the taxes, multi-family units, which we had very, very few, converted to single family units, so forth and so on. So that's really one big barrier and reason we had to start telling our story. The second is competition. I realize that Northern Kentucky is unique in that we have a large parochial system that is not seen in other parts of the state. So the map on your screen was created by Candace Gibson, who is also on this call. We made the conscious decision in Bellevue a couple of years ago to really begin telling our story and investing in relations and communication. So Candace Gibson, again, who's on this call, is our Director of Communication. She created this slide for a presentation at KSBA last year. So if you look at the top right, you see that B logo, and I don't know if whoever the host is, if you can go back to the beginning of this slide, it'll show it. That's Bellevue. This is where we're located. We're far in northern Kentucky, across the river from Cincinnati. And we are one of 6 school districts in Campbell County, which Campbell has the most school districts of any county in the state. We're proudly one of those 6. To my east, I share a border with Dayton Independent. To my west, I share a border with Newport Independent. And to the south, I share a border with Fort Thomas Independent. In addition to that, we have little pockets in our community that belong to Campbell County schools. And then the 6th school district is Southgate Independent, which you see right there south of Newport. So is there competition between these public districts? Not really. However, there is competition in that financially, some families, maybe the rent is due. So it's easy. There's a lot of mobility in northern Kentucky. So as you move from one district to another in close proximity, addresses become vague, but we really have to pay attention to taking care of all kids. All of the kids belong to us in this public system. So looking at the word competition, no, it's not there, but we have to work in concert with all of these other public districts. If you look at the circles on the map represent the 10 parochial high schools within a 15-minute drive of my high school. That's competition. And there's I think at least one more coming online in the fall of 21 and possibly a 12th. So all of those circles, now again, those are high schools only. For every high school, there's at least 2 or 3 elementaries that go along with each parish. So I have an elementary, parochial elementary, that is 1 block from my central office. So there is additional competition for our schools, and another reason we have to tell our story. If you see the dark square to the left of the B, to the west, that is the charter application that was denied in 2020. So you see that competition is fierce. And when you have a district of 600 students like I do, telling your story becomes imperative. And all of the good things that go on. Our community and school district, much like yours around the state, are intertwined. It is a cultural thing. It is a part of their identity. People identify as Bellevue Tigers, and that's important to them. So as this competition becomes stronger and gentrification takes hold in our communities, we have a real need to get our stories out there. There is storytelling to thrive, and there's storytelling to survive. And we are experiencing a little bit of both of those right now. Heading into the next slide here, heading into a legislative session in 2020 and 2021 again, which all have budgetary concerns. You see that Ed Choice specifically is really out there telling their story about why they need more funding, which I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit about funding, as everyone on this call knows that we all need funding as well. I'm in no way am I talking down right now. I'm just trying to explain really what's happening here in Northern Kentucky. And again, I'm not dumbing this down, but the state of Kentucky only gets so much revenue, and they take all of that revenue and they divide it up, and schools get a large portion of that. So you may not have a private school, parochial school within 50 miles of your school district. However, we do in some parts of the state. So if say, for instance, tax credit scholarships or scholarship tax credits are passed, what that does is takes that revenue and reduces it for the state. And then when they divvy that money up to education, we all get less. So a dollar from one of us is a dollar from all of us. And it may not directly affect you in some parts of the state, in that you're losing kids like we could, but your funding will be reduced if we don't oppose things like scholarship tax credits or vouchers or savings accounts or whatever name they are using this year to try to access public funds. So this is Bellevue's story. We are fully on board with telling our story and getting the message out there that public schools do great things, that our kids do great things, that they go on to and contribute to our societies. And I hope you join me in that in those efforts. So thank you for having me today. And Amy, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Smith. We appreciate you sharing the great things you're doing and telling your story. And the brutal facts is part of why, we started this conversation is we want to be prepared, and we know we have great things going on every day in our schools. And so part of this telling our story is, what if we all use the same messaging? How much better could that be, and how much brighter of a light could we shine? And so, we want to be prepared, and we want to be united, and we think that could make our lift together easier. So, Gretchen, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little more about that.
Thank you for being here with us today. As you can tell, we're passionate about public education. I'm Gretchen Wetzel. I'm the Executive Director of the West Kentucky Educational Cooperative. And for several months now, we've been talking about this initiative. And I think Amy used the word that is the most powerful, and that's united. So together, we can make a huge difference in the telling of the public school story. I go back to a comment that David Young made several months ago, and he said, public school is more than just about class. It's the entire experience. You can do class online, but you can't do school online the way that you all are doing it. And that's what's so valuable for our students. Just want to share with you who came together in this united effort. It's amazing when you think about all of the folks who are involved. We've got 171 public school districts. Many of you are with us today. We've got our 8 cooperatives that are members of KAEC, the Kentucky Association of Educational Cooperatives. We have Jim Flynn with KASS, who has partnered with us from the very beginning, Rhonda Caldwell from KASA, Tony Kuntz-Totman from KDE, we thank you. And we especially thank Josh Schulte from KSBA. He has been just a wonderful contributor to this effort. We believe that coming together and being united will make our message so much more powerful. The timing is perfect, as today is the first day of the legislative session, for us to begin sharing this message, the power of telling our story, Kentucky. Thank you, Amy.
And I didn't know if Rhonda or Jim or Tony had anything they wanted to say.
Good morning, Amy. This is Jim Flynn, and I really appreciate you all pulling this together. Our public schools are important community binding agencies in every community across Kentucky, and in fact, I say they're the lifeblood for a healthy, successful community, and so this work is critically important. As a superintendent for 16 years in Kentucky, I used to work hard to make sure our community understood the importance of our schools in binding our community together, and continuously reminded them that a community gets the schools it wants. And if they wanted great schools, they could have them, but that they would need only get interested, engaged, have high expectations of us, and be willing to invest their time and resources to help us be great. But it was also important that we lead that narrative so that they understood not only the successes, but what our needs are as well. And as David already mentioned, we can't take for granted that they know what's going on in our schools, that they know the successes, and that they know what our needs are, unless we tell them and that we lead that work, and that we're intentional and consistent in putting that message out. And Dr. Smith pointed out that there's policy threats out there to public education. And just yesterday in our 3KT meeting, which is a coalition of education stakeholder groups, we talked about the school choice policies that are out there in the form of educational opportunity grants, and then how much the school choice folks are using the current situation against us to try to take much needed resources. So it's so important that we get our message out to counter these. And I just want to commend all of our cooperative directors and our partners for making this a priority. And I encourage all of you on this to work hard to support and lead this effort in your local districts, because it really is going to take a grassroots effort by all of us to get this message out and garner support for our public schools. So thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Jim. Rhonda.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rhonda Caldwell with the Kentucky Association of School Administrators, the School Leaders Association, if you're not familiar with us. And we are home to about 3,100 members, and that's going to be school counselors to school superintendents. So we're especially grateful to be part of this work and looking forward to supporting not all of the, in addition to the co-op directors who have dreamed this big dream for us, but each of you who are actually going to be doing the work. Any way that we can be supportive, we want to be supportive. And just a couple of thoughts that I've had all along about this work and why it's so important. We're all aware of the narrative that's out there about public education, not only in our own state, but nationwide. And most of the time, it's very negative. Occasionally, we get that one or two feel-good story. But we know that the research tells us for that one negative story, we have to tell 3 positive ones to overcome that one negative. And everybody's got a negative story to tell because the bad is easier to tell than the good. The people who know the good stories, the best stories, the great stories, we're so busy getting the work done, we just haven't paused to tell the stories. And several have on the call already have talked about this legislation from Education Choice. So what it means in a first year is that we would lose $25 million in revenue. So that's $25 million in the state that someone doesn't get to take advantage of. And that's just the beginning of the plan. Once the plan goes through, it is already mapped out. I've read the report. We are to be a state that would be like Florida or Georgia with over $100 million in these tax credit scholarships. And in the absence of any tax modernization or any revenue streams, we don't have a chance at restoring those funds. But our stories have the potential to change any negatives or any narrative to continue that push. Because these stories, they win the hearts and they win the minds of all of our shareholders. And that in turn brings support for the work that we do. And it also brings renewed respect and admiration for the profession, what each of you sitting in the seats that you do every single day. And so telling our stories, when we think about, oh, it's a story, let's get it out there, mom and dad will be happy, the school will look great. But when you start to go past that landscape, think about your story and the hope that it brings, because this good story about this student, this classroom, that means that it's a wonderful example that I too can aspire to be. That story can be mine because now you've shown me the way and you've given me hope to be better for tomorrow. But these stories also make us relatable. They make us real. They make us authentic, and they bring about greater trust. And we struggle with trust just as a nation. It doesn't matter what we talk about in our world today. There's somebody who disagrees. No matter how harmless you think that your message is, there's somebody who's happy to tell you that they disagree and why they do. And so this project on this scale has incredible potential to change the public's understanding through broadened perspective of what it means to be a part of public education as an anchor or a pillar that exists in every school community today. And the most important thing here that I think I could say would be that every story here is unique, and you're the only one who can tell it best. I can try to tell your story, but it's not going to be near as good because it's not going to be possibly authentic, and I might lose the relatability of it. And so I hope that we've got a fantastic start here. Thanks to Amy, thanks to David, thanks to Gretchen and Bart and the rest of the folks here on this call. And so let's start it strong and let's finish it strong, because there are amazing stories to tell. So Amy, thank you for letting me speak.
Sure, absolutely. And now this is what we want you to see. And Josh is going to share. Josh Schulte has been our glue. I can't say enough about the work he's done. The logo you're going to see and the work, he's actually designed that. And I'll just say he's been the glue to keep us moving forward. And so very appreciative of the work he's done for us. And using his talents. And so Josh, if you'll share the turnkey materials that they'll be able to use, that would be great.
Thank you, Amy. Again, I'm Josh Schulte. I'm the communications director for the Kentucky School Boards Association. And it's been a joy to work with Amy and David and Gretchen and the rest of the group in contributing to this campaign. And as district leaders, as district administrators, you know that the challenge of putting on a campaign, even at the district level, is a matter of having the creative resources. It's a matter of having the time. It's a matter of being able to reach a rather kind of a diverse group of audiences effectively. And really what prevents us from doing more, say, campaigning, more of the goodwill stuff, more of the storytelling, very often boils down to logistics. And where I think KSBA was able to chip in a little bit and to help bring this kind of vision to life was to try to create some what we'll call brown paper packaging tied up with string. Because we know that what's inside the package, these stories that many districts are already telling in some shape or form, have incredible power, have incredible capacity to compel people to change opinions, to even advocate change. And so what we set out to do was create turnkey materials. Again, really just tools that districts could use to enhance what in many ways you're already doing, but to add some kind of brand consistency to it, kind of a look and a feel that while each district has the opportunity to tell individual, unique, authentic stories at the local level on the ground, all of these unique stories will be kind of tied together with this, we'll call it a brand, this Telling Our Story Kentucky brand. And with that, hopefully kind of raising all ships to the level where it's having a major contribution to this dialogue that's taking place largely online. So we're talking about turnkey materials that are going to make it easier for you to communicate with your stakeholders, whether that's board members and other groups that kind of maybe already inside the tent, business leaders, community leaders, your staff, your parents, who as connected to the schools as they may be, they they can always use more stories, the students themselves and the media. It's a shame that we aren't able to do more campaigning in kind of a unified way, because so very often our interests are aligned. All these groups, all these co-ops, all these what we lovingly refer to as the K groups and stakeholder groups, even some that aren't present here today, our interests 90% or more of the time are very strongly aligned. And I think this is one of those opportunities where we can all come together under a singular banner, a singular campaign, and really push this. And what I will say is, because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, the advocacy efforts in Frankfort, I think, are going to take on a different tone this year, because you're not going to necessarily see the same level of in and out activity in the Capitol that you might traditionally see. There's going to be, in terms of the number of people they will be able to let into the building, and the social distancing and things like that will make it tougher for a lot of K groups, a lot of stakeholder groups to have that kind of face-to-face interpersonal interaction that they might have on a regular basis. Where we can make up ground, and I think where we can even grow an impact, is on the online space, on social media, online and earned media. And I think that's where there's so much opportunity for this campaign to really take off, but it will require as many districts to participate as possible for this to really have the strength that I know Amy and this group believes it can. With that, Amy, if you want to advance the slide, what we're talking about in terms of turnkey materials, we've created Facebook cover and Twitter headers. We've created sample social media content. We're in the process of creating even a Facebook frame that individual users on Facebook will be able to kind of, embellish their profile picture with kind of a cause logo pertaining to this campaign. A sample article and interview questions that will allow you to kind of package this campaign more easily, and then logos and brand standards. A couple of those things you can see on the screen to the right, to the left there are just, it's just kind of a sampling of some of the materials that we've kind of worked hard to put together that will hopefully make it very easy for you to take what you're already doing, taking the stories that already exist there in your local atmosphere there, and packaging it in a way that is kind of similar across the board. This idea that we're telling stories, positive stories, and I will piggyback on something Rhonda said a moment ago, that what we're doing is taking the high road and telling very positive stories. We're not going to the dark side and trying to tell horror stories. We're not trying to be negative. The most powerful thing we can do is to showcase what is happening positive in our districts. And with that, I'm going to attempt to share my screen so I can pull up the KAEC website. Let's see if I can do that. Kudos particularly to Gretchen, who did a lot of kind of the coordination of getting this site off the ground. But this is the new KAEC site, and on it are a number of resources that go into a lot of the detail that we talked about today, kind of provide a summary of the why we're doing this. But also it goes into great detail about these turnkey materials that we're putting together for districts. The hashtag Telling Our Story Kentucky is not just the name of the campaign, it's also the hashtag we're going to be encouraging people to use. So the parts of your stories and the parts of this campaign that will live online in the digital space, we're hoping will be accompanied by the Telling Our Story hashtag. But by going to the Telling Our Story Kentucky tab on the KAEC United website, you kind of see some of the samplings of the material right there. That's an example of what our Twitter and Facebook cover images will look like. The power of public schools is evident in the stories we tell. Here we have the sample questions that we're hoping that people will use to put some of these stories together. And we're not necessarily asking districts to do something ridiculously different from what they may be already doing and showcasing their staff, their alumni, their students, their families. This is just kind of a very specific way to mine for those stories. Below that, we wanted to show you, this is our selfie sign, the power of public schools is evident in blank. And that's where we really hope the individual districts will take the initiative to kind of answer that ad lib for us, or that mad lib for us. Locally, how is the power of public schools evident? Another thing, Ronnie Nolan, who is a 91 graduate of Whitley County High School, he served as our guinea pig in putting kind of a sample story together. So the sample questions you saw a moment ago, we actually kind of interviewed him and put into practice kind of a living version of what we envision an example of these interview questions to be. It highlights someone's public school journey and speaks to how that even today continues to impact their life. This right here is taken from that interview. This is kind of a social media graphic sample where we took probably one of the more powerful lines from Ronnie's interview, popped it into a social media graphic and included his photo. And this is, again, kind of a very simple templated way where we're encouraging folks to interview someone, tell a story, take bits and pieces from that to enhance on social media, and to do this kind of on a regular basis. And what we've also provided here, and this website will continue to add and it'll continue to evolve as these materials continue to come together. But we've created a link that will take you actually to a Google folder where all of these resources are available. So kind of on your own time, at your own pace, you're going to be able to go in here and view social media headers, the logos, the selfie signs, an introduction flyer that you can use and maybe kind of explaining this campaign to some of your stakeholders. There's a blank postcard template, and some of these sample graphics that we just looked at on the website. So there's a variety of resources we've provided that hopefully will make it an easier lift for districts to tell these stories in kind of this framework that we've created. So it's exciting. I think we're excited to put something together that is easy for districts to use, and in that way may kind of enhance our presence during this legislative session. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Josh. A lot of things that Josh just shared there. You know, like we said at the beginning, the goal was one story, one positive story, and the template and the questions that he shared would be an example of one positive story. But then you see other tools that he has shared from the Twitter, like social media headers, the selfie page. We also believe that there's districts that will be creative with the logo and come up with other ways to share. Jessica, if you could move forward for me. Just a few things in closing. You know, we have every district will be participating throughout this week through the cooperative webinars. We hope that, and we'll send reminders because we have everybody's email. Social media headers, our goal would be that those would go the week on January 11th through the 22nd, that we would do the headers that week as a focused effort. And if you look at number 3, share telling our story, just use those tools in an effort of advocacy as we magnify our voices together. The monthly stories, but yet, you know, if the selfie page is more your thing, you know, we know everyone has different resources and time, but, you know, the bigger picture is using that blue circle, telling our story Kentucky, is a great way, however you use it, to unite in a voice. And, you know, we had a virtual meeting with our legislators, and we were able to say to them, you know, we told them about this and said, please watch for this blue circle and retweet that in a way to support us. And so, you know, I think that's another way to have legislators be a part of telling our story. and get them watching for that. You know, I think it's just another way to get our story out there. And then the next slide talks about where, which I'm not gonna, I think Josh did a great job. You know, we have the KEC webpage. We will have those links on our co-op pages. You can also just go to Google and search that, and it'll come up if you're familiar with Google. That's an easy way to find the materials. And, you know, I think the biggest thing is, and I said it at the beginning, but our human capacity, if we collectively pull together, how powerful that will be. And, you know, instead of it being a heavy lift right now, one more thing, it could be relatively easy for us to make quite an impact together. So Gretchen is going to close us out.
All right. Well, I am really excited for this last portion because it comes with prizes. We have some door prizes today for those of you who play along. Josh created this really neat selfie page, and I know you all can be very creative with this. I will share mine. Mine is "The power of public schools is evident in opportunities." In the public school realm, you all provide so many different opportunities for kids on all levels, which create a whole being that is our product. And it's powerful what you all are doing in your districts. So what I'd like to do now is ask you to hold up your sign that you created. And we're going to get real creative here. I want everyone to hold up your sign, and we're going to take a picture of everybody with their sign. Are we good? So thank you all for participating. It's been fun being with you today. I'm excited about this effort, this united effort across our state. It's amazing what public school can do, and I'm proud to be on the team with you. Amy, back to you. Thank you all.
Well, in closing, we appreciate everyone being a part of today and taking time. We appreciated all the conversation. You know, the bottom line is we've shared a lot of resources. We've shared some suggestions, but there really is no wrong way to use this, just so it's positive. So if you have other ways and other thoughts, feel free to do that. You know, we just want to see the positive message and the blue circle out there. And the other thing we would encourage you to do is, you know, at least once a week, search that, encourage your staff to search that and retweet each other's. You know, this right now, we have people from 3 different parts of our state together on a call. How powerful is it to start retweeting each other's positive stories? And so I think that's a great place to start. So if you can do that, even if you can't get a story out, we can definitely all retweet. And so there's lots of ways you can get involved in this. So thank you for you all who are part of this, I'll say the seed part of getting this started. And so let's get some momentum going, and we appreciate your time.